Okay, I cracked my iPhone screen and I replaced that glass, including the camera, and it's very fuzzy, almost like I don't know, like a special lens to give my selfies a more romantic ambiance. But something's wrong with that camera. Anyway, I wanted to talk about hypothyroidism. It's going to take several sections. Hypothyroidism is when the butterfly-shaped gland in your neck is underactive and doesn't produce enough thyroid hormone. A lot of different reasons that can happen, and a lot of different reasons someone can be hypothyroid. They can even be hypothyroid when they produce enough thyroid hormone. For example, there's a condition known as Wilson's syndrome, not to be confused with Wilson's disease, which is excessive copper accumulation, but Wilson's syndrome, where the body produces a thyroid that is exactly the opposite. There is dextrorotary and levorotary thyroid hormone. In one case, the iodine molecules that are bound on a tyrosine amino acid curve to the left, and those are called levorotary. And then when the when the iodine binds to the tyrosine molecule to the right, it's known as dextrorotary. And mirror images of that are exactly the opposite. Like if I stand and I put my right hand forward, a mirror image of me looks exactly the same, except really it would be the left hand forward. It's exactly the opposite. And the thyroid hormone works like a lock and a key. It turns on metabolic reactions in the body. And if you have a mirror image of that key, it won't produce the metabolic changes in the tissues, even though it's producing thyroid hormone. So you can have a blood test to actually measure your T3 or your T4, and it can look like a normal amount, except it can be actually mirror image production. And that's what happens with Wilson's syndrome. It produces mirror images of the thyroid hormone that read on a blood test like you've got normal thyroid, but it's not, because the key doesn't fit in the locks being your brain, your muscles, all your tissues are affected by thyroid hormone. And so it's like having a mirror image of a key. It won't open the lock. And even if you produce enough of it, because it's a mirror image, it won't cause the changes metabolically in the body that you want. And you're still hypothyroid, even though your thyroid gland is normally active. It's just producing mirror images. And that's known as Wilson's syndrome. Many of the wise doctors that I've studied under, a good point was made that we treat patients, not blood tests. So somebody can have a blood test showing something's normal, and meanwhile, that patient is that way. People can produce antibodies or things that make it look like they're normal or not normal, and in reality, they're either okay or they're not. I mean, the blood test doesn't always reflect what's happening with the person. So we treat people. One of the best ways this group of doctors believes to measure if you're hypothyroid is to look at some things. For example, take your body temperature randomly 3 times a day for 3 days, so you get 9 readings, then average it and see what it is. It should be 98.6. If it's high, you might be hyperthyroid. If it's average is low, you might be hypothyroid. If you have a low body temperature and you have dry skin and constipation and you're real sensitive to temperature changes, and maybe you're a little overweight, maybe you're a little mentally sluggish, maybe you got a brain fog, to quote Joe in the Volcano. If you kind of are mentally sluggish, physically sluggish, sensitive to temperature, a little overweight, dry, and your body temperature average is below 98.6, it's a good chance you're hypothyroid. And also with hypothyroid people, they tend to lose the outer third of their eyebrow. It's something that happens. So if you have those symptoms, even if you have normal thyroid blood tests, we'll discuss some of that. It can be changed nutritionally. I had a patient once who was having troubles getting pregnant. Her sister had a goiter and her mom had Hashimoto's, something like that. Both her mom and her sister had big thyroid problems, and she'd never been checked. And so I did the blood tests as a chiropractor, and the test we did is called a thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. There's a normal range. That's like 4.5 is kind of the middle. Labs vary a little bit, but somewhere around there is normal. Hers was like 60 or 80. I didn't think we could do it nutritionally. She wanted to try it. We put her on the nutritional supplements to improve thyroid production, and it dropped to like a 20. It improved a lot, but it still was a problem. So I had her go to her medical doctor, who's an endocrinologist, a hormone doctor, and he had missed this with her. And he put her on a little bit of thyroid along with the supplements we did. Her thyroid was normal. And then like a month after that, she comes in my office, and it was a real small town, very religious. Everybody knew me. And she comes in, and I was really busy, and I could tell she had something she wanted to tell me. And I was kind of like, hey, I'm really busy. Can we talk later? And in front of everybody, she says, Doc, you got me pregnant. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I start explaining that by improving her thyroid hormone, then all her hormones work better, and she'd been struggling to have a baby, and now she was pregnant. But actually, technically, her husband got her pregnant, and everyone knew her because I think she was a big member of the Baptist church and was well known, and they all knew it was a joke, and she would never blurt out something serious like that if it was serious, but I was red-faced and embarrassed. Part of the point of that is how much improvement can happen nutritionally with the thyroid. Another point of that is how much all our hormones are like a team of horses. You're not just riding a horse, it's like a team of horses. And if one horse is going too fast or too slow, it can cause a disaster. All your hormones, your cortisol, your testosterone, your estrogen, all of those have to be pulling evenly. If you have excessive estrogen, and it can happen to men too, if you have excessive estrogen, it will reduce your thyroid. And so some women, when they go through menopause and their estrogen drops, it adds to their hot flashes because all of a sudden their thyroid hormone surges for periods. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. This is part 1 of I don't know how many about thyroid, hypothyroidism, and how to see if you've got it, how to make it better, what to talk about with a medical endocrinologist, things like that.